Okay.
And the
What did he say?
it just like.
Good, okay.
Good afternoon. Before you stand, does anybody know what our state vegetable is in North Carolina? Who said that? You're exactly right, sweet potato, that's exactly right. Do you know that we are the #1 producer of sweet potatoes and have been for the last 4 years? That's just my fun fact for today. Thank you for bearing with me. Super happy to see each and every one of you. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to be here. I want to give Buck a thank you for covering for me. We always call it cross-training, and I'm very grateful. He's actually training me. Y'all just didn't know it. Kids need Kiwanis, and Kiwanis needs you. Please stand and join me in our defining statement. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clay, would you lead us in song? And I need to get a songbook real quick.
I certainly will. The roses are blooming everywhere now, so I thought we would sing My Wild Irish Rose, but my table consultant, Frank Manson, gave me so much gruff.
Well, I think he wants us to do a solo.
That
Okay.
No, his claim. So I have changed it to something that Frank knows how to sing. And that is on page 13, and it's Star Spangled Banner. And the pitch will be, oh, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose skies and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare above bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Good job. And Martin will share our invocation.
You know, it's kind of interesting. I'm standing beside Clay. We're singing the Star Spangled Banner. And one of my claims to fame is joining Clay at one of these baseball stadiums and singing that. And I thank you. And you know, all the people that participated in that. I know when we think back over it, we've all enjoyed it a lot. And whatever happened to your choir director? I'm sorry to hear that. He was a special guy. Well, I want to mention Chip Winstead. He asked me to do the blessing, and you know, he's kind of nervous. And I tried to think of something that was unique about today, and I saw something in my yard that reminded me of what's going on this weekend, which is Mother's Day. And I started thinking about our organization. And there's probably one thing that we all have in common. In fact, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have this in common, but didn't we all have mothers? I think we did. I don't know if there's been any changes, but my understanding, we had mothers. So I'd like to say a Mother's Day prayer. And again, thank you also for all the food that it's been fixed for us today. But bow your heads. A Mother's Day prayer. May the Holy Spirit guide each mother as she seeks for wisdom. Illuminate the scripture for her. Help her encourage her children to honor you. Give her a church family that will come alongside her and show the love of Christ to her and her family. Place godly mentors in her life and also in the lives of her children. May they seek you and find you. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
And so we want to welcome all of our guests. I think Buck is going to do that before we get started. Everybody take a look at the screens and give a big wave to our guests online. We're happy to see everybody. We do miss you and we understand, but we're so happy you're with us virtually.
Great. We have several guests with us today, and let me introduce a couple. I'm going to introduce somebody else to introduce another guest. But Stacy has two guests with us today, and I'd like them to stand up and be recognized. First of all, from the town of Bath, North Carolina, the oldest city in North Carolina, Rebecca Ellis, and she's a realtor broker, and here in Raleigh. We're glad to have her. Thank you for being here, and you can come back and join anytime. And another guest of Stacy, who works with Edward Jones, is Elizabeth Barnes. Elizabeth, we're glad to have you. And one of our members wanted to introduce his guest. Let me introduce you to General Gary Pendleton.
Stand up. It's my pleasure to have Francois Brigand with me today. I happened to run into him in the yard of one of my neighbors who is from France, and he's from France. He's lived here 20 years. He's a professor at NC State, and we're just happy to have you. Anything else you want me to tell him about? Okay. Oh, I know. There's one thing I did want to say. So many people in this room do not know, and I found that to be true for years, that we would never have won the American Revolution if it wasn't for the French. Never would we have won that. They sent in a task force of about 7,000 into New York Harbor and into Norfolk Harbor, and there General Cornwallis surrendered. Welcome.
Yep. Do we have the birthdays? And Francois, while they're doing the birthdays, what do you teach at NC State? Oh, I'm not sure if you heard that. Oh, well. Okay, let's look at the birthdays on the board.
And they are on the board. You see the May birthdays. Today is the 12th, so we've got a number. Jimmy King, Charlie Wheelis, Francis Bobby, Susanna Robinson, Jeff Cohen, Randy Hartley, and Meredith Little. Happy birthday to all of you, and we'll get the rest of the May birthdays next month.
And Randy is online, so happy birthday.
Randy, thank you for being online. I started to say Merry birthday, but happy birthday too.
All right, thank you, Buck. We have a few announcements. Is Andy Wood here? Oh, there he is. I'm sorry, in the back. Did you want to say anything about the golf tournament? I know it's a huge success, but any updates from you?
Yeah, so the update is that I'm gonna have, we're working through the numbers. I'm waiting for another check or two to come in. And then we'll have the final numbers next week. It's been one of those days. So we'll have the final numbers as far as how much money we raised next week. So, and thank you again for everybody that participated. Thank you for all the volunteers. Without the volunteers, there's no way that happens. And I'm always grateful for that. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Travis, would you be willing to give us an update for tomorrow? And now, Buck, will you do membership welfare?
Francis is going to do membership welfare.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank.
You delegated it. So Frank is back after being ill. Frank Crawley.
Frank Crawley, yeah.
Glad to have you here. And Phil Kirk has been ill, is recovering, is doing better, and told me, I think yesterday, that he had 11 days before he'll be out of the hospital, but he is recovering. Is there anybody else who has a membership welfare item they'd like to share? Great. Okay, well, well, Phil, turn your
Are you
video on and we'll
Yeah.
see ya. Anyway, hope you're doing well, Phil.
Yeah, thank you. And Buck will introduce our speaker for us. Thank you.
We have a very special speaker today since it's Mother's Day weekend. This speaker will talk about women in a particular industry, and an industry that usually is not associated with women, and that's the construction industry. I found out, having met Nora, that her father and I served on a couple of boards together, and I had no idea that was her dad. There's no way in the world a guy that looks like him could produce a daughter that looks like that. I tell you, I'm going to be sure to tell him I said that, okay? Nora El-Khouri Spencer is our speaker today. She is the CEO of Hope Renovations. For 15 years, she was a HR professional, and then she switched directions. Went back to Carolina, got a master's of social work, and developed interest in social entrepreneurships. In the summer of 2020, Nora combined her workforce development experience, her experience in the construction industry, and her passion for women's empowerment to launch Hope Renovations. That organization trains women and non-binary folks for living wage jobs while helping older adults live safely in their homes. Nora is a licensed North Carolina building contractor. She holds a certified aging in place specialist designation. She's received multiple honors over the years, including the National Association of Home Builders Woman of the Year Award, the Triangle Business Journal's Woman in Business Award, the UNC School of Social Work's Distinguished Alumni Award, and the NNO named her Tar Heel of the Month not long ago. She is a graduate of Carolina. She is an avid Tar Heel fan. I knew that would bring some applause or something today. She is known on her frequent appearances on CNN's Drew Barrymore's show as Nora the Tradeswoman, and you can see her there. She's a master gardener, a beach addict, lives in Chapel Hill, and we're proud today to have Nora Spencer with us.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I had no idea that there was going to be this delicious meal ahead of time. My dad, there's a famous story, he's a Civitan in our hometown, and one year it was the Thanksgiving meal, which my dad notoriously would go back for seconds and thirds. He was given the program that night, and he actually almost put himself to sleep giving the program. So hopefully I won't follow in his footsteps. I'm really delighted to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. I think I'll start by telling a little bit more about my background, because the question I get most often is, you know, were you in construction? How did you get involved in construction? What happened? And I was not. My dad is the least handy person I know. Our toolbox growing up was a shoebox in the garage with a random assortment of tools in it, and there was a Cool Whip container with a bunch of hardware that didn't match. So my mom was more of the handy woman, but it wasn't until I was married to my husband, Brian, and I worked for Lowe's corporate headquarters in HR, and we had a great employee discount. My husband and I bought our first house. It was a foreclosure and it needed a lot of work. So I started buying tools and learning how to do stuff, because honestly, I couldn't afford to hire people to do it for me. And I really quickly realized that I was good at it. And over time, it just snowballed. I loved doing that stuff. I took on more projects. I spent a lot of time in YouTube University learning how to do stuff. watching DIY channel, but I would also hire subcontractors and contractors to come to my house, and I would follow them around and ask them to show me how to do things, which they loved. It went, we bought a couple more houses, we did more renovations. It snowballed into doing electrical work, doing, framing walls, all of it. But I never saw any other women doing it. Never met another woman in the whole time that I was doing that. And that sort of stuck with me. And I would ask some of the contractors that I worked with, have you ever had any women who did this stuff and that worked with you? And by and large, those that had women on their teams would say, best employee I ever had. Detail oriented, so kind to the customers, showed up on time, but there just wasn't enough of us doing it. Well, fast forward, I stayed in human resources and recruiting with Lowe's, and then I ended up going to work for IBM and did recruitment for IBM and workforce development. And I was really involved in some of our women's empowerment initiatives because IBM also is a very male-dominated company. And I had what I like to call a corporate-induced epiphany that I didn't want to work in corporate anymore. So I went back to school, got a master's of social work at Carolina. That makes me a double heel, undergrad and graduate. And it was while I was there, like Buck mentioned in his introduction, that the concept of social entrepreneurship was introduced to me. So this idea that business and social justice can come together and really create effective change in our community. And that seemed to make a lot of sense to me. The business community has a lot of stuff right, and the social justice community has a lot of stuff right. So why don't we bring those two things together? I started putting together this idea for a training program to help women get into this industry. I did an internship at Urban Ministries of Durham, which is a homeless shelter. And I worked with a lot of women there who, my job was to help them get jobs because we could get them into housing, but if they didn't have stable work, they wouldn't be able to stay there. And I'd talk to them about the construction trades. And for the most part, they would say, yeah, I've always been good with my hands. I've always thought I would be good in construction, but nobody ever taught me how to do it. It's a man's job. I don't know how I would get started doing something like that. And it really dawned on me, that's what the gap is for women. People don't talk to girls about construction the way that they do to our male counterparts. It's just not part of our consciousness. I remember being in 7th grade, and you had two options. You were either put in art class and shop class, or you were put in home ec and typing. And you didn't have a choice. My brother had done shop class. He'd done all kinds of cool stuff, and I was very excited about shop class, but I got put in home ec and typing. And I went to my homeroom teacher and I said, I really want to do shop class. Can I switch over? And what she said to me was, honey, you're a girl. Home ec and typing are going to be much more useful for you in your life. These are the types of messages that we get. Now, I'll just tell you, I can type 120 words a minute and I can wrap a gift with 3 pieces of Scotch tape. So it was not lost on me. But what I really wanted to do was shop class. And I was told that I couldn't, and I believed it. And it wasn't until much later in my life that I realized this is something I could have done. So that is the gap that we are trying to close for women. We recruit women who are underemployed. So a lot of the women who come to us come from underserved backgrounds, traditionally marginalized communities. We have women who come to us, single moms, they're coming to us out of substance use recovery programs, homelessness. But then we have a lot of women who come to us who are underemployed for different reasons. They lost their jobs due to COVID, or they are just at a point in their life where they're trying to figure out what their next step is. Maybe they've been stuck in low-wage work their whole lives and they want to get out of it. We've had women who've come to us out of domestic violence situations where on paper it looks like they have a lot of assets, but in reality they don't have access to those assets and they need to figure out something that's going to sustain them. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about our training program, but I also want to mention the older adult piece of it. Older adult is the word that they tell you you're supposed to use for seniors now. Can I have a show of hands? Who prefers the word seniors? And who prefers the word older adults? Okay, so it's about half and half. So I can use either one in this audience. That's great. So when I was in graduate school, I took a class in Keenan Flagler. I was the only social worker in a class full of MBAs, and it was a social entrepreneurship class. And we were tasked with coming up with a socially entrepreneurial venture that was revenue generating and self-sustaining. And I had this idea for a training program that I kind of wanted to put some legs around. But the person teaching the class was an aging expert. And she said, what you come up with has to be aging focused. And I thought, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do that. I don't really wanna just focus on the aging population. But then I learned about the concept of aging in place. How many of you have heard of that before today? Good. I would expect so. So the idea is, if you are able to stay in your home safely and comfortably as you get older, all of the outcomes are better. Health, mental health, emotional health, economics, societal impacts, community impacts. It's all better if we can stay in our beloved homes as we get older. But there's not enough contractors doing that work. How many of you have struggled to get a handy person to come do things for you? Or finding a contractor who's actually gonna show up when they say they're gonna show up? There's just not enough people doing this work because it's typically small to mid-sized jobs that don't generate a whole lot of profit. So it sort of dawned on me in that class, okay, if I have a training program for women, they're gonna need hands-on skills. Why don't we go out in the community and do this work for seniors? Gives the trainees an opportunity to get that hands-on experience while serving this community need. That sounds like it makes a lot of sense. So Hope Renovations, the whole idea was born. I started working on it right after graduate school in 2017. It took me about 3 years to make the connections I needed to make, to create the business plan. I'm not a nonprofit person. This is the first nonprofit I've ever worked for. So I spent a lot of time on the business side of things for about 3 years. And we were ready to get started in March of 2020. And that didn't happen. So we put the brakes on. We had already recruited our first class of trainees. We were ready to go. And we, like everybody else, we kind of just put everything on pause while we were waiting to see what was happening. But a couple months in, our first group of trainees, they came to us and they said, look, it's not getting any better out here. We want jobs. We want to get out in this industry. The construction industry is booming. It's an essential industry. There's all kinds of opportunities. And then seniors, they're sheltering in place, some of them in homes that are very unsafe, and it's just getting worse. So this is an opportunity for us to get started. So we ripped the Band-Aid off and we got started in June of 2020 with lots of masks and lots of hand sanitizer. And let me tell you, teaching power tools from 6 feet away is not easy, but we managed to do it and we got through it. So our mission is to inspire hope in women and older adults for a joyful and fulfilling future. I want to talk first about our program a little bit. We provide several industry recognized credentials in our program. So there's an OSHA 10 certification, which I know a lot of you are familiar with. We provide a certification through, it's a Department of Labor recognized certification. They get first aid CPR certification. We teach the core skills you need to kind of be an entry-level worker in the construction industry. So safety, blueprint reading, tools and materials, construction math, which is everyone's favorite. After we finish that core part, then we go into the hands-on stuff in the trades. So we teach the basics of carpentry, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. We teach them drywall, tiling basics, a little bit of everything. And the purpose of that is many of the people who come to us just have a vague understanding that they think this might be the right fit for them, but they may have never swung a hammer before. So we want to introduce them to as much of this industry as we possibly can so that we can help them decide what might be the best fit for them when they get out of our program. The other big piece of what we do though, so we have great community colleges in North Carolina. Anybody can go to a community college and get wonderful trades education. What we offer though is the support outside of just the hard skills. So this is a population that traditionally hasn't had a seat at the table in construction, and it's very intimidating to go onto a construction site and be the only woman. So we do a lot of professional skill development, conflict resolution, teamwork skills. We talk about resume writing, interviewing skills, just general employability. We have a lot of guest speakers come in, mostly women who work in the industry, that come and talk about their real life experiences, because we want everybody to understand that we don't want them to think they're going to go out on their job site and it's going to be all roses, because it's not. We want them to have a real world understanding. We also do case management. So like I mentioned, a lot of the women that come to us come from underserved backgrounds. They might need help with transportation, childcare, mental health, physical health, you name it. We understand as social workers that you can give somebody a job, but if you don't help them with all the other stuff, they're not going to be able to keep that job. So we spend a lot of time with them reducing those barriers so that when they do go out into the work world, they'll really be successful and on the right career path. Our Aging in Place program, we do anything you can think of, from grab bar installations. That's a lot of what we do. We do ramps. We do a lot of bathroom renovations. So tub to shower conversions, that's primarily the area that as you grow older, you feel a little bit unsafe in, is trying to get in and out of your tub. We do installations of comfort height toilets, so it's a little easier to get up and down. But we also do some big renovations too. We've done kitchens for folks who suddenly are in a wheelchair and they need their countertops lowered or they need their doors widened. The other population we do work for is folks with disabilities regardless of age. So typically we do 55 plus. So if you're 55 or over and you have some sort of need in your home in order to stay safe and comfortable, we'll help you. But if you're disabled, we'll also help you, because a lot of times those needs are the same. And we get a lot of calls from UNC hospitals saying, we have this individual who they're in a wheelchair now and they're gonna need some modifications done to their home. Can you help them? The interesting thing about our program is, I mentioned earlier, revenue generating. So I think a lot of people, when they think of nonprofit, they think no profit. That's not true. You can make profit, you just can't have shareholders. I can't go out and buy a yacht with the profit. We have a revenue generating model. All of our work in the construction world is done on a sliding scale. So we'll go out and do repairs and renovations for folks in the country club who can pay market prices. And then we take the revenue from that work and we put that into the jobs that we do for folks lower down on the income scale. Depending on where they're at in the income scale, they might get a 30% discount, a 50% discount, or it might be completely free. We also work a lot with community partners like Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together of the Triangle. They all have wait lists a mile long. We're able to take some of that off of them and provide them with capacity. So they actually subcontract quite a bit of work to us in terms of urgent repairs. I like to show pictures of my team doing stuff, partially because I just think it's really fun to look at pictures of women doing awesome stuff. But we do a lot of work in the community. We've completed over 200 jobs. I think we're now up to 210 jobs since we started in June of 2020. Sometimes they let the boss help out every once in a while. I want to share just a few stories. How am I looking on time, Buck? I'm good? Okay, great. So just a few stories. I was named a CNN hero last year, which was a great experience. And, all of this media attention that we've been getting, I certainly didn't expect it when I started a nonprofit that has spent this much time on TV. But it's been great for Hope Renovations because it gets us supporters from a much larger area than we could have otherwise expected. We have people who are donating to us and asking how they can help from different countries even. Ariana, who's up there on that ladder, she was one of the people that was featured in the CNN piece. So Ariana came to us. She actually moved down from Pennsylvania to be in our program. And she was dealing with some pretty major depression. She had been in a sales job. It was a really high pressure sales job. She was a very hands-on person and she couldn't figure out how to get into a hands-on career. She never could afford to go to community college. She couldn't make it happen with her work schedule. So she came to us and she did our program. And I should mention at this point, not only is our program completely free, but we also pay folks a stipend while they're in the program. So they actually make living wages while they're taking the program from us. And that allows people like Ariana to come and do this program. It allows single moms to be able to do our program. It's very expensive, but it's also very important that we support them while they're going through the program. Ariana went through our program. She became the teacher's pet. She was the one who, by the end of the program, was showing everybody else how to do stuff. She went into a job in a solar company right after graduation, and she loved it. But what she really loved was the teaching part, when she had been helping with the teaching while she was in the program. So now she's in school, she's in community college, she's getting her electrical license because she wants to teach other women how to do this, and she wants to bring more women into the electrical world. Anne, who's down there below her, Anne came to us. She had been in the real estate industry for a while. She had experienced a lot of ageism as she was looking for a new job. She came to us, she went through our program. I'll be honest, I didn't really know how we were gonna find a job for Anne. She didn't necessarily seem like we could find a fit for her. She came out of our program and she took a job as the maintenance manager for Carroll Woods Retirement Community, where she never experiences ageism. So she's very, very happy there. Vivian, the person in the middle of the screen, Vivian, so at the beginning of our program and at the end of the program, we ask a lot of questions. We do some data evaluation, and one of the questions we ask is, what's your personal confidence on a scale of 1 to 10? Vivian ranked herself a 1 at the beginning of the program. She had been referred to us by Step Up Durham, which is an organization in Durham that helps women who are struggling to get into careers. At the end of our program, she ranked herself a 9. And that is a trend that we always see, that women, 100% of our graduates have ranked themselves either a 9 or a 10 in confidence at the end of our program. Vivian went to work for Fitch Lumber Company, a small family-owned lumber company in Carborough. Not only was she one of their only Black employees in the store that they'd ever had, she was their first female Black employee. So I point out Vivian's story, not just to show that it's very impactful for the people to go through it, but it's impactful for our community in other ways. The last person I want to point out, everybody in that last group is amazing. If you watch the CNN piece, you'll see Rain, who's over there on the left side of the picture. She actually just recently got hired in the inspections department in the town of Chapel Hill, and we're really proud of her. But Katie over there with all the tattoos, and I have permission to share Katie's story. Katie came to us from a court-ordered substance use recovery program. She was going to lose her children if she didn't go through this program. The last piece of that program was to go through some kind of job training. So to check a box, she enrolled in Hope Renovations program. She sort of hung back for the first couple of weeks. She wasn't really all that involved. She didn't really seem like it was the right fit for her. But by the end of the program, she was just like Ariana. She was teaching other people how to do it. She was the first to volunteer when we were doing new stuff. Katie got hired right out of our program by a commercial builder as an expediter, an entry-level role. In 4 months, they promoted her to site supervisor, and now they've got her in community college training to become a project manager. And Katie just passed her 1-year anniversary last week. So to say that this industry offers life-changing, transformative careers is an understatement. Just a little bit about our impact. We're actually on our 10th cohort right now. They're going to be graduating in a couple of weeks. Our youngest has been 20 years old. Our oldest was 62. We don't have an age limit. I'd love to see a 90-year-old come take our program. We'll have had 70 graduates at the end of this month, and they all are making $15 or more in the jobs that they've taken after our program. And as I mentioned, we've completed over 200 jobs in the community. A more important statistic I want to share, 100% of the people who have decided that they want to go get jobs in the construction industry after our program have gotten jobs, 100% of them. The opportunities in this industry are endless and they pay well. I just want to share this. I know that, here we go. So let me share this real quick. It's our vision for change. We're past 1 year already. Year number 2, we're already past, and we checked all those boxes off. We're in year 3, 4 right now. So we've already expanded our on-the-job learnings, and we've expanded our services. Now we're providing maintenance services to older adults. We're doing punch work for new homes that are being built. We have some funding to create a Spanish language program. One thing I'm really excited to share with you is that last bullet point, launching Hope Renovations number 2. We've applied for some funding that would allow, it's a partnership with Durham Tech and a partnership with Wake Tech. And it would actually allow us to take Hope Renovations classes and put them at Wake Tech and at Durham Tech, because they don't really use their construction space during the day. Most of their classes are in the evening. So if this is a successful model like we think it is, we think this is going to be our expansion model, and that we might be able to continue to expand via community colleges throughout North Carolina and then hopefully beyond. That last thing I wanted to share that it went away, it's my favorite quote. It's the true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not intend to sit. That's, I think, the reason that all of you are here and that all of you are involved in Kiwanis. It was my inspiration for creating Hope Renovations. It's a quote that I heard when I was in high school. My grandfather was Lions Club state president. My father's always been very involved with Civitan Club. Community service was really important to me, but more importantly, creating something that is bigger than me and that will go on long, long after I'm gone. And that's what Hope Renovations is. And I just want to thank all of you for being part of Kiwanis, because that's what you're doing here too for our community. So I welcome any questions. Our website is hoperenovations.org. Please look us up. Yes.
Well, obviously, the community colleges are going to be the best source, but I'm wondering at a little bit higher level. The only construction management four-year degree I know of, I'm sure state has one, is East Carolina.
Right.
And are women in those four-year programs?
They are. There's also a program at Appalachian State. They are in those programs. The majority of women that come out of those programs tend to go into administration and management rather than going into the field. So that's the big issue right now. Women make up about 11% of this industry, but only 4% of people actually in the field swinging the hammers, managing the projects are women. And that's what we need to try to do a better job of.
Are you going to join our club?
I live about an hour from here,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll think about it.
Yeah, I have done some work with Habitat for Humanity. It's kind of fun.
It's fun.
But you think about the construction industry, that's a pretty big thing, broad
Right.
base. Management, working with machinery, measuring, things like that. I could see where women would be exceptionally, if not better than men.
Yes.
But what about the brick masons? What about climbing up on a steel building and those rivets and, 50 stories? And I mean, do women want to do that? Is that encouraged? Is it appropriate?
That's a great question. The answer is yes, they want to do it. And I don't think we ever knew it until we started asking them to do it. Because for the longest time, we just weren't asking women, just like we weren't asking women to join the armed forces. And then once they joined the armed forces, we realized, wow, we've been missing a whole gender of incredible soldiers and Marines. So yes, they want to do it. I would say the greatest example of that is my own team. I have a team of 8 people, 8 construction workers. They're all women and non-binary folks. They could run circles around. I'd put them up against any male crew out there. So thanks for asking the question. Yes.
Ma'am, I was talking to a gentleman this morning from church who is moving into a retirement community and is working with someone who will come in and show them, he and his wife, exactly what will fit in their unit. Do you do that?
Absolutely. And you're talking about, are you talking about renovations to the unit or?
No, I'm talking about like placement of furniture.
Oh, interesting. We don't do that, but I could recommend, there's a company called the Downsizers.
The downsizers.
They
okay.
do that. I would recommend any of you who are downsizing or just like trying to figure out how to best use your space. That's something that they do. Yep.
Jeff Griffin. Jeff, tell her where you live.
Sorry? Oh.
Where do you live, Jefferson?
Well, hopefully one day we'll be in Carteret County. That's right. Oh, that's a good way to sell it. She said, we have a virtual option, so. Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I will tell you this, yes, that's a big round of applause. Our club has built 2 houses, one at Victory Junction and one with Habitat. However, we did earn the record of the longest time to complete. So we needed your help back then.
Because you were being so detail-oriented, I'm sure.
It was before women were allowed in the club, so men, tell me. Just joking. Thank you. We actually donate a book to the classroom, and so we have a place that you can sign it inside the cover.
Thank you.
And we do have members who live out of state.
Great.
As well as right here. So please think about joining us. Let's see if I can find the name tag for you right here on the bottom. Thank you very, very much. Let's give a big round of applause for a great presentation today. Elizabeth, Rebecca, and Francois, Please come back and join us again. We'd love to have you in our club. Next week, Carl Hollifield from the North Carolina NC State University and Creamery will be coming to speak. Oh, did it change?
That's right, and he is with the Creamery, he runs the Creamery, and he's bringing a special gift to everybody that comes next week. So don't eat too much before you get here is all I can say.
Is it Howlin'?
It's Howlin'.
All right. Well, come out and join us. Come back. We meet here. It's a great community, a great club. We'd love to have you be a part of it. If you look around and your friends aren't here, ask them. Jefferson used to ask all his friends here, and you can still bring them from Carteret. We'd still like to have them. No, we have the virtual option. But please do have a fantastic week. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow at Miracle League, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the room. Thank you.